40,000 soldiers are waiting outside. Alexander lies unconscious on the bed. His generals are staring at you, waiting for an answer. You are the only man in this room who can tell them whether their king will survive the night. And the terrifying part is, this isn't the first time you've had to save his life. 19 years earlier, he was only 13. Level 1, the king's fever. Your first memory of Alexander is not his crown, it is his skin. He is 13 years old, lying beneath linen sheets in the royal house at Pella, burning with a fever that has already broken twice and returned twice. And you are 17, newly assigned to his household, still learning that treating a prince is nothing like treating an ordinary boy. You press a cool cloth to his forehead. You count his pulse against 2 fingers, 70 beats in the space it takes you to breathe 4 times. His sweat carries a strange, sweet scent, almost like crushed violets, and the court whispers that it proves the boy has something divine in his blood. You do not believe that. You believe in what your hands can measure. Even burning with fever, Alexander refuses to behave like a frightened child, reciting lines of Homer between shivers to prove the illness has not touched his mind. The same lines his tutor Aristotle has been teaching him at a walled retreat outside the city called Macedon. You stay beside him until dawn. You do not know yet that this sick 13-year-old boy will one day command armies across 3 continents. You only know that his hand has found your wrist in the dark, gripping it the way a drowning man grips the one thing that will not let him sink. Level 2, the crown at 18, 5 years pass, and you treat cuts, broken fingers, and a torn ear from his warhorse Bucephalus until 336 years before the Common Era, when everything changes in a single afternoon. Alexander's father, Philip II, is assassinated at Ige during a wedding feast, a dagger driven into his ribs in front of the entire court. Alexander is 18. By nightfall, he is king of Macedon, and by nightfall, your position has changed with him, from a physician watching over a boy to a man responsible for the single body an entire kingdom now depends on. Rivals want his throne, cities test his authority, generals twice his age wait to see if he cracks under the weight of it. You begin to understand something that will not leave you for the rest of your life, that if this particular patient dies, the consequences will not end with him. An entire kingdom could collapse along with his body. He does not weep where anyone can see him. He asks you instead, in a flat and clinical voice, how quickly a man can die from a wound like his father's. You answer him honestly. He nods once and walks back into the hall to claim a throne that used to belong to someone else. Level 3, the cup. In 333 before the Common Era, Alexander reaches the city of Tarsus after a brutal march through Cilicia and does something that nearly kills him, plunging into the icy current of the Cydnus River to cool his burning skin. Within hours, he is violently ill, and the greatest conqueror in the world lies helpless inside a tent, shaking with the same ash-colored fever you remember from a 13-year-old boy in Pella. You prepare a draught of hellebore in a small clay cup with a hairline crack along its rim. As you turn to hand it to him, a letter arrives from the general Parmenion, warning that Alexander's enemy Darius has bribed his own physician to poison him. Every man in the tent goes silent and looks at the cup in your hand. Alexander reads the letter in his left hand. Then he drinks the medicine with his right, watching your face the entire time for the smallest flicker of guilt. He trusts you completely. You have never felt more valued in your life, and you have also never stood closer to a death sentence. Because if this fever wins tonight, no one will remember the letter was false, only that you were the one who handed him the cup. Level 4, the body of a conqueror. By 331, 7 wounds mark the body you have known since it was 13 years old and shaking with fever, an arrow through the calf at Gaza, a stone to the neck at Syropolis, a sword cut to the thigh in Hyrcania, and after each one Alexander refuses to rest until you swear to him he can still ride by morning. You know this body better than any man alive, the exact width of his shoulders, the old scar above his left eyebrow, the difference between his pulse when he is furious and his pulse when he is afraid, which for him are almost never the same thing. After the Battle of Gaugamela, you work through the night by torchlight, cutting an arrowhead out of a cavalry officer's shoulder with a blade no wider than your smallest finger. No wine strong enough to dull what he feels, only leather between his teeth and 4 men holding him down. Alexander walks the rows of wounded himself afterward, learning every name, because he has told you more than once that a king who forgets a soldier's name has already begun to lose his army. Every victory leaves him another scar. Every campaign brings you another night where you have to save him all over again. Level 5, what his body is worth. This is what the empire around him actually runs on, beneath the marches and the victories, a fear so precise it has its own unspoken laws, and every one of those laws bends around the single body you are responsible for keeping alive. Alexander's worth to 40,000 soldiers is not measured in his kindness or his cruelty. It is measured entirely in whether he wakes up breathing tomorrow, because an army built entirely around one man's presence has no plan at all for his absence. You begin to understand your own position as a kind of physics rather than an honor. The same pressure holding an arch together is the pressure that could bring the whole structure down the moment his fever spikes past a number you cannot control. Every time you save him, you buy yourself exactly one more chance to be blamed the next time you cannot. There is no accumulated trust in this profession, no decade of success thick enough to survive a single bad night beside his bed. You have kept the king of Macedon and Persia alive for a decade now. It has purchased you nothing permanent. It has only rented you the right to try again tomorrow. Level 6, the arrow at the wall. In 326 before the Common Era, storming a walled Malian town beyond the Indus River, Alexander does what he has always done, refusing to wait behind his own ladder. Cruz, becoming the first man over the wall, an arrow punches through his breastplate and lodges beneath his ribs. When you finally cut the shaft free, air bubbles up through the blood, which means the arrowhead has passed through the edge of a lung, and you are the one who makes the incision to pull it out while he is still conscious enough to find your wrist and grip it. The same grip from a linen bed in Pella 19 years, and 4 campaigns earlier. Your own hands shake for the first time in years. He survives, and his soldiers weep in the streets when he is carried out on his shield to prove to them he still lives, because they no longer believe in an empire that does not include him breathing at the center of it. You do not sleep that night. You understand something now you cannot unlearn, that the same recklessness that built this empire is the thing that will eventually end it, and you will be the one standing beside him when it does. Level 7, the grief. In 324 before the Common Era, Alexander's closest companion, Hephaestion, dies suddenly of fever at Ecbatana, and something inside Alexander does not survive the loss either. He tears down the temples of Asclepius in mourning and has Hephaestion's physician, a man named Glaucius, executed for allowing him wine and food while still weak. You stand in the crowd and watch a colleague you have shared meals with for 11 years put to death on the word of a king. You once cooled with wet cloths when he was 13. Alexander stops sleeping. He drinks more than you have ever seen him drink. When you check his pulse, now he does not grip your wrist to steady himself the way he once did. He grips it the way a man grips driftwood in open water. The boy who once recited Homer to prove a fever had not touched his mind has become a man whose mind you can no longer fully read. And for the first time in 19 years, you are no longer certain whether the greater danger to him is a battlefield or his own unhealed grief. Level 8, the final fever. Babylon, 323. Before the Common Era, Alexander has been drinking through long banquet nights when the fever begins. Quietly at first, then not quietly at all. You are summoned to the palace of Nebuchadnezzar on the second night, and you recognize immediately the same ash-colored skin you first saw on a 13-year-old boy in Pella 19 years ago. By the 4th day he cannot walk, by the 7th he cannot speak. Fewer of your fellow physicians volunteer for the night shifts as the days pass, because everyone remembers what happened to Glaucius at Ecbatana, and no one wants to be the last hand that touched the king before he stopped breathing. You stay anyway. Alexander lies unconscious on the bed. His generals crowd into the room, staring at you, waiting for an answer. And beyond the palace walls, 40,000 soldiers wait for word of whether their king will survive the night. You reach for his wrist out of 19 years of habit, and for the first time in your entire life together, he does not grip back. Level 9, the empty room. He dies on the 11th day, June the 10th, in the year 323 before the Common Era, at 32 years old. You feel for the pulse beneath your fingers, the same pulse you first counted when he was 13, and there is nothing there. Outside, thousands of soldiers wait for news that has already happened. Inside, the room is silent except for the oil lamps. Within days, his generals begin tearing the empire apart between them, and within a few years they are at war with each other over the pieces. And the boy who once recited Homer to prove a fever had not touched his mind becomes a name stamped onto coins in 100 cities he will never see finished. No one asks what happens to the physician who kept him alive through fevers, arrows, grief, and 19 years of a body that refused to admit it could ever stop. You pack your instruments into the same cedar case you have carried since the beginning and walk out into a city that no longer has a king in it. The empire will eventually forget the physicians, the soldiers, the servants, every ordinary life that disappeared beneath his shadow. It will not forget him, For more than 2,000 years, people will still speak his name. But you knew something history could never fully capture, that before he was Alexander the Great, he was simply a 13-year-old boy with a fever, and for 19 years, you were the one who felt his pulse.